Welcome to our review of Damien Leong's Terrifier 3. We just came straight from the theater. What are your thoughts on it?
If you're into gory films, this is better than part two. If you're into gore, stuff like that. There's some sacrilegious stuff in there I didn't really like, but what'd you say the budget was?
2 million.
2 million. And the first part two was what?
Part 2 was 250,000.
I mean, and part two went to the movie theater. That's a huge feat to get, to shoot a movie for 250,000 and it goes to the movie theater. I mean, they made money. They made hand over fist money on part two. So then they upped their budget to only 2 million and they'll probably still do well, get their money back for Terrifier 3. They're creating a lore for this, so it's probably gonna go to part 10 if they keep making money on these.
Well, they did say they're going up to part 4. Part 4 is supposed to be the final chapter.
Okay,
So
we'll see. We'll see about
there's that.
Yeah.
My thoughts on it, I didn't like it as much as part 2.
Mm.
I like part 2 a bit more just because there's more mystery behind it. It left us with more questions and answers, but
Yeah.
not in an annoying way. With this one, some elements that are explained, you're like, oh, okay. And it's actually a big deal. It's a big factor of one of the questions that many had in part 2. Like, what the hell is he? What is Art the Clown exactly? That has seemingly been answered in this one. The practical effects are so realistic. I haven't been that impressed with practical effects since.
Yeah.
It makes me think of The Thing, honestly. But even though that movie was ahead of its time,
Yeah.
the practical effects they had in that was just crazy, and it reminded me of that. I could say no one's transforming into aliens or anything, but how me and him look, and it like cuts to something and cuts back to us as practical effects. It looks just like us.
You mean it looks like real
It
black
actually
flesh?
looks like
Yeah.
it still looks like us because there's cuts, quick cuts. Art is taunting them, screaming while he's cutting them in half, and it goes back to them.
Yeah.
And it's not them no more, but they do a good job with the editing and the practical effects.
Yeah, the practical effects were good, and being old horror movie watchers as us, practical effects are,
Preferred.
yeah, preferred for horror. There's nothing like a good old slasher, practical effects are good. When they started bringing in CGI and all that, it's different. You're missing that, when meat's getting cut, you can tell the difference when it's in CGI and when it's practical effects. It was a trip, man. When we walked in the theater, we're sitting in the middle. So we walked past these three females, we didn't really pay attention. And we sit down and the girl had her purse or whatever, like here. And I think I was supposed to be sitting in that seat. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put my seat there. I was like, no, there's plenty of room. I'll just sit over here, The girls started kind of talking to us and stuff. And I was like, wait a minute. These are kids. They're like little kids. And I see at the end their mom's sitting there. And I was like, their mom brought them to this movie? They're like, oh, we watched part 2 like 10 times. Now, from what the reviews we heard, people were fainting in this movie, Terrifier 3. She was like, guess how old I am? And Chris was like, 16? She was like, no, I'm 12. And that was the older looking one that said that. And then I look at the back, the purse. I look at the purse and it's a Pikachu backpack. It wasn't even a purse. I thought it was a purse. I was like, this woman bought her kids in here? I'm like, people were supposed to be fainting watching this movie. They watched the whole thing. They stayed. The mom stayed. They thought their mom was going to leave. She sat there. She enjoyed it.
I don't think it's as bad as some movies I've seen this year. Bringing up the sadness, that's still one of the worst movies I've seen. Art the Clown kind of lightens the mood as things are happening, just with his character, which is why he's in murals with Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. He's his own personality. He's kind of like a mix between Michael Myers and Chucky, in a sense, because there's like that humor while he's killing people, but the gore is incomparable to all those. It's on another level. The part 3 being the worst by far.
Yeah.
That is clearly where the budget went on this. The filming and the filter, the filter felt heavy on this for
Hmm.
some reason. It felt more like part one than part two. Part two felt like its own thing still.
Mm. Yeah, part one had it had grain to it had a grainy look, and it did go back to part one. There was like, I mean, far as like contrast and um, stuff like that, which I didn't mind. It gave it that 80s kind of cheesy feel, which I like. I mean, most of the movies I acted in, that's what they looked like, horror films. The end kind of reminded me of
Stop!
the way
Stop! Stop!
the way well, I don't want to spoil anything, but it kind of
Um,
did have that feel to me,
if
at
this
least.
video pops off and you guys want us to do a spoiler review, we will do it. But it's we're gonna do it based off the fans' demands or our subscribers' demands. So don't
Yeah.
forget to subscribe and like this video. Talk to us about how you like this one and the other movies that we talked about on this channel. You were saying, without spoiling,
Yeah.
some Evil Dead elements.
Yeah, like we were saying when we saw the trailer, it had some Amityville horror kind of Black Christmas, was it?
Yeah, that was one of them. Black Christmas.
The Shining. He had,
Oh yeah.
they had a few things where they were playing, which is cool. I mean, if you're a horror fan, this is if you like, because some horror fans they don't like practical, like they don't like slashers. This is a slasher. I mean, oh, I prefer a demonic film over a slasher. I mean, what? I mean, you know, like which? I mean, they're all bad.
I'm surprised he came to see this movie. I thought I was gonna go by myself and he was gonna sit here while I review it myself. He watched part two to prep for part three, and that
Yeah,
shocked me.
it took me months or probably a year to watch part two. I didn't want to watch it because all the stuff I was hearing about it. I was like, I don't want to see that crap. And it's funny because I used to love horror films, but I've been kind of getting away from them. But this is our job to review films, and that's my excuse at least. But in part three, yeah, then they started getting sacrilegious and throwing in some stuff. I was just like, oh man, you guys you didn't have to do that. But other than that, the film was I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie, I did. I was laughing the whole time. I mean, they always say horror films always say people faint when they watch this. I'm like, I've heard that like three times at least.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, were they faint? Were they dehydrated? Like it wasn't the movie that made them faint.
If you've seen Terrifier 1 or 2, this isn't gonna be the one that take you out
Nah.
per se. These people who are passing out, seemingly, it must be their first time, or maybe they went into the movie not knowing what they
Right.
were gonna watch. I mean, I'm pretty desensitized myself, but I'm looking at this in a perspective to where those are the only instances that I can see someone actually passing out
Yeah.
from viewing this movie. I'm not saying it's not watered down at all whatsoever.
No, it's not.
It's pretty bad,
Yeah.
but pass out or throwing up, vomiting, no.
We were small watching these movies together, and I put Chris on the horror films, and then I started acting in horror films. So I've had fake blood in my mouth, and so it's like what you're watching. I'm watching it like I can imagine them on the set laughing at this whole thing as they're filming. At least I would be. So we're watching it with different eyes.
Yeah.
Um,
Working in the industry kind of takes us out of the immersion. We're not totally engaged unless the movie is just phenomenal or it's just
Right.
our cup of tea. Otherwise, we're looking at the acting
Yeah.
or the practical effects. We're not getting
Right.
grossed out because we know that's not real. A normal casual person who's just trying to view the movie, still, I don't see it.
Literally, I can't help it when I'm watching a movie. I'm sitting there, I'm adding up how much it costs to get these set. Oh, that looks like a set. That doesn't look like they were actually in the mall. That looks like a studio. That's the kind of stuff I can't help it. I'm literally sitting there adding up the budget as I'm watching the film. I don't know. It's just a thing I do. No, it was enjoyable. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it was, if you're into slashers, this is hilarious. If you like part 1 and 2, you'll like this one. The little girls next to us, they enjoyed it. I can't spoil what the little girl said, but because it kind of mentioned something in the movie, but she was kind of like, "Oh, I wish more people died or something." A little girl, man. I was like, "What are you talking?
Yeah,
We in the
that was
same
wild.
movie?" Yeah.
Body count is definitely
Oh
higher.
yeah, higher.
More blood, more
Yeah,
guts. If you're a fan of what he does more of it here.
yeah. He does more of it here. I mean, they just started off with a bang with Christmas music playing of all things.
And there's a reason for that, I guess, due to what he's representing now, apparently.
Yeah,
Again, that's
which is
we won't cross the line here. This is a spoiler-free
yeah,
review. If you want to hear how we really feel and go into detail and everything, again, leave a comment, let us know. There's a lot of fans out here, a lot of Art the Clown fans. I was even in Spirit Halloween, and they got the outfit they're selling, his merch now,
yeah.
his outfit for
He's
Halloween.
I mean, like I remember when Chucky came out, it was a brand new Child's Play, was a brand new movie, and then they all, you have your people always compare who's scarier, Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy, Texas Chainsaw, Leatherface, Hellraiser, who's scarier? So there's always those comparisons, and he just adds on to that whole lure. These guys, I'm like I said before, I met some of the filmmakers. Kudos to them. You make a film for that low, and your budget just keeps increasing, and they're doing good. So that's good for them, man. I mean, it's getting into the theater like that. That's really good for them. A lot of films that were made for 2 million, they don't make it to theaters. They're gonna make their money back on this one, I'm sure, and they'll get more money for the next one. So I'm interested in seeing. I can already kind of tell where they're gonna go. So they'll probably have bigger set pieces because I can't say, but yeah.
Yeah, which would probably be pretty cool. I feel like that one might go more towards the part two vibe because this one went
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
part
yeah,
one. I
yeah,
feel like in order for things to make complete sense, you're gonna have to answer some questions that are still lingering from part two.
yeah, yeah. And three, there were some things, I don't want to
Yeah,
say, but there were some things that even she came to light, the lead actress, that hasn't been answered yet. So, they can keep this thing going for more than part four, but we'll see what they do. I mean, they can end it at four, but so could a Friday the 13th. Halloween, especially. Like Halloween 4, I think that was really good. And then 5 and 6, was like, what are they doing, Hey, man, long as people go to see it, we'll keep reviewing it.
it was good. I liked it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it as
There we
much as
go.
part two. He liked it more than part two. If I was to review it, I would give it 1 cup of coffee.
Dang, man. We're like this, you know what I mean?
That's what you were thinking too?
Yeah, I was thinking 1 cup of coffee. I'm not going to give it more than that. I gave Substance 2 cups. I'm definitely not giving this 2 cups. I'm not even giving this 1.5. They lose. This could have been a 1.5, but they lose half on all that religious stuff. I didn't like that. It's just my own personal thing. So they get 1 cup of coffee.
Not a half a cup?
Can I do half a cup?
Yeah.
They get half a cup of coffee. You get half a cup of coffee.
Sorry.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
Yeah, there's things.
I don't like that stuff, man.
If you want us to touch on it, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Till then, Real World's out.